And Mark McAdam, Rob Dorset and Carve Solocola all here. It's like the evolution of man with the three of you stood alongside
Starting
me.
which end?
Yeah, no comment. Let's move quickly on to Man United, shall we? Michael Carrick and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer have both been spoken to informally about the possibility of taking charge until the end of the season alongside the current caretaker, Darren Fletcher. Let's start with football correspondent Rob Dorset and the latest on this.
Well, look, Jason Wilcox, the Director of Football at Carrington, at the training ground, has been busy today making informal chats with people that he's interested in potentially taking the interim role. And I think United are focusing on that interim appointment right now. They haven't ruled out the idea of maybe making a substantive appointment if they find the right candidate and things go well. But at the moment, they want to get somebody in place for the Manchester City game, the Manchester derby on January the 17th. That's the target, to try and give them a bit more stability. And 3 Manchester United former favourites are in the mix, and we've seen them on the big screen there. Michael Carrick, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and of course Darren Fletcher, who we know will be the caretaker boss against Burnley tomorrow night. And I'd fully expect him to be in charge for the FA Cup third round game against Brighton at Old Trafford on Sunday as well. But the fact that they're going to 3 old favourites, they're not the only 3 they've been speaking to, by the way. There are other candidates as well for this interim role. But the fact that they're going for those 3, I think, speaks volumes about how they want a safe pair of hands. Somebody that knows the Manchester United team, knows the Manchester United setup very, very well. So we wait to see how that develops. But I get the feeling that things are going to move pretty quickly from here. In terms of that interim role. And it's pretty quick. Look, this came as a sudden situation for Manchester United. They didn't want to sack Ruben Amorim yesterday. That was way ahead of schedule. It's because of that inevitable breakdown in relations between him and Jason Wilcox, the Director of Football. That's meant they've had to move quickly, but they're not going to rush a decision in terms of making a substantive appointment to replace him. They're looking to buy themselves some time so they get the next appointment right. And so one of these 3 would be a good option. There are other candidates they're talking to, but look, I suspect we'll have more news for you in the coming hours, and certainly by this time tomorrow, because I think Manchester United want to move pretty quickly on this. Next key bit of information, though, Darren Fletcher talking to the media for the first time at 5:30. He's going to be asked whether he wants the job until the end of the season, of course. Been with the under-18s, in charge of them. Very little experience with first-team football coaching, but Man United have very high hopes for him for the future.
All right, this is moving quickly, so we will let you go, Rob, and come to you, Carve, because if it is to be an interim until the end of the season, which in some ways feels quite sensible given the options that might be available in the summer, that would intimate that none of these 3 are going to be given their own players to sign over the next month.
I think it'd be really surprising if United were to do any transfer business this month. If we go back a few days to the meeting that Ruben Amorim had with Jason Wilcox at United, I think one of the sort of disagreements between Amorim and the hierarchy at United was the need to strengthen the squad this window. I think United's position has always been very, very clear. We know we need to strengthen the squad, but we will be strengthening the squad in the summer, and we have long-term targets, especially in midfield. Now, I know you're looking at me and thinking, well, how come they were in for Semenyo this month? I think that is different because he is somebody who was a long-term target, and he potentially became available this month, which is why they re-looked at signing him. But I would be very surprised if whoever takes over in the short term is given funds to spend this month.
Well, the other question...
I'm not sure United need to spend this month.
Why?
Because I think they've got a really, really good squad as it is. They have plans in place to strengthen the squad in the summer, and their target this season is to finish in the Champions League places. And I think their squad is good enough to finish in the top 5, because I think finishing 5th will get you into the Champions League.
Just very quickly as well, before we come to Mark, the other point would be if you're a player, you might not necessarily want to go if you don't know who your manager is going to be.
That's a very good point, but I think you have to remember that you're talking about Manchester United, and most players, I think, if United are interested in signing them, will at least listen to what United have to say. But I don't think United will be reaching out to too many targets this month.
Mark, Carve mentioned that meeting between Ruben Amorim and Jason Wilcox and the disagreements they had on Friday, partly about tactics, but also possibly partly about recruitment as well.
Yeah, that was a key meeting, and as Carve's touched upon, it didn't go well for Ruben Amorim. There was a clash of heads with Jason Wilcox, and clearly they weren't on the same page. You see Ruben Amorim's comments at the weekend, and that's led to what we had yesterday, where he left Old Trafford. the key thing I think that any new Manchester United manager has to be aware of is very similar to Chelsea, is that there is a structure in place at the football club. There are decision makers above the head coach, and they will be deciding essentially the players that the football club recruits. It's not about signing players for the manager, it's about signing players for the long-term vision of Manchester United. And the manager has to fit in, or the head coach has to fit into that remit. And that's very much what they'll be looking to do, not just in this window, but the summer as well. We spoke on the very first transfer show about their desire and need for a central midfielder. But again, those plans will be activated in the summer. So it's going to be some time before Manchester United starts to spend big. And of course, in the summer, one of the significant things is the club will know whether they've got European football. And European football will depict how much money they can spend in the transfer window. For example, if Manchester United get into the Champions League, into the top 5, as we expect it to be, that could be a boost of around 70 to 80 million pounds as a minimum. That will also change the dynamic of the type of players they can attract, because players will say, well, at the minute, they've got no European football. Whereas if they get into the top 5 and they get Champions League football, it suddenly becomes a lot more attractive, and the purse strings will just get released that little bit more, because they'll have more income from being in Europe, which they don't have this season.
Let's move on then to a club who have sorted out their managerial vacancy. Chelsea have confirmed the appointment of Liam Rosenior as their new head coach on a 6.5-year deal. He arrives from Strasbourg on a contract that runs until 2032. This was him speaking this morning.
This opportunity for me is something that I cannot turn down at this moment in my life, for many reasons. One, it's an unbelievable opportunity, an unbelievable club who are Club World Cup champions with an incredible squad, an incredible fan base. Secondly, it means I can go home and see my kids. I'm away from my children. I've missed them, and I wanted to make the sacrifice of not seeing them worth it with the success that we have here. So there are many reasons. I don't think anyone can question how hard I've worked for the club, my integrity in the way that I've worked for this club. I don't think anyone can really question the decision I've made to move on with my career.
So he moves on with his career, Carve. Part of the frustration from Enzo Maresca was maybe wanting a little bit more control over certain things. You might argue that that was the same with Maurizio Pochettino when he was at the club. Is he just going to come and do as he's told?
I don't think he's going to do as he's told. He's his own man. He's going to be the head coach. But certainly he's not going to have the final say when it comes to recruitment. He is going to fit into the structure that is already at Chelsea. And I think he's going to be happy with that. He knows that Chelsea have an exceptional squad, and the way things work, they generally tend to add to it in the summer. That is when they sign their long-term targets. So I don't think he's gone into Chelsea yesterday for these talks and started talking about, I want this player, I want that player. I think he knows the way Chelsea work, and I think he knows that, of course, he will be consulted. He will have a big say on who they recruit, but he's not going to be the one person who calls the shots on everything. Far from it.
Chelsea are one of these clubs that they don't go and spend a huge chunk of money in the summer with a plan to go and spend more money in January. They're very much a club that like to operate in the summer, and that's their plan at the minute. They'll be looking ahead to the summer of 26, the summer of 2027. You have to remember as well, they've actually got 2 players already that will be joining Chelsea this summer. Emmanuel Amegma, the 22-year-old striker, is the captain as well at the moment. And Giovanni Cuenda, who's an 18-year-old right winger, right wing back, who's currently in that Sporting team. They signed him in March 2025, but he joins Chelsea this summer as well. He's been described as the next Ronaldo. So the plan for Chelsea with regards...
No pressure, son.
No pressure. But that's the plan for Chelsea, is that they don't just go out and see opportunistic moments to sign players in windows. They have a structure, they have a plan, and they're looking ahead not just 12 months, but 18 months and beyond.
So you just said there, it's 22 and 18, right, the 2 players that are coming in the summer. A lot of people who know a lot about football would say they're not miles off Chelsea from being a club that could potentially challenge for the biggest prizes, the Premier League and the Champions League. What they need is a better goalkeeper, a very experienced centre-half, and a recognised goal scorer. For example, why weren't they in the market for someone like Alexander Isak over the course of the summer? Will they go and do that, or are they just totally committed to this model of buying and flipping?
Is that what people... What did you say? People in...
I think a lot
know a lot about
a lot of
football.
people who've played the game would say you're 2 or 3.
Is that what they think or what you think?
It's probably both, but you would say.
I thought so.
What would you think? Do you not think that they're 2 or 3 experienced players away from being a serious team?
I think they're already a serious team. They're world champions. I think what you say, of course, I've heard it before. I think you can push back on everything you say there. On the goalkeeper, I think Sanchez has been playing really, really well recently. I can't remember the last time he made a mistake. His form has really improved. When it comes to centre-backs, Chelsea have got a lot of centre-backs already. Who is out there who they could go out and sign? The name that people keep saying is Mark Gahey. I think they've looked at him and decided for whatever reason that they're not going to make a move to bring him back to Stamford Bridge. You talk about forwards. They've gone out and signed Liam Delap. They went out and signed João Pedro. They've got Emega joining from Strasbourg.
Either of those
as well.
two are Premier League title-winning centre forwards?
I think they are, yeah. I think they are. Maybe not this season, but in the next few seasons. Chelsea, they've got the option of signing players like an Ekitike or going in for players like Alexander Isak. They're not going to do that. They're not going to be paying players top wages. They've got their wage structure and they're going to stick to it. I know what they're doing is controversial and not everyone's happy with it, and it's totally different to the way Roman Abramovich ran the club. But this is the way things are. And I think sometimes they have looked at signing older players. For instance, I know for a fact that Virgil van Dijk, if he'd left Liverpool, if he hadn't got a new contract at Liverpool, Chelsea were looking at signing him as a free transfer. So I think sometimes when opportunities come along to sign older players, they will look at it. But by and large, their approach is to go with the approach that I know you don't like very much.
It's nothing to do with what I like or not. I'm not a Chelsea fan. I'm interested. I suspect some Chelsea fans think we're really close to being, if you think they're a serious team, an even more serious team. The follow-up to what you were saying about Abramovich, just quickly before we come back to Rosenior, do you think you could summarise in a sentence what the main aim is for the owners?
Chelsea?
Yeah.
To win the Champions League and to win the Premier League title again. But it's going to take a few seasons, and I think they feel that they are on the right track. They've got back into the Champions League after being out of it, I think, for 2 seasons. Arsenal were out of the Champions League for 6 seasons. 6 seasons. So Chelsea have won 2 trophies they won last season as well. They feel they're on the right track. Yes, what they're doing is controversial. Yes, a lot of people think they're going about things the wrong way, but they just feel that people need to retain a sense of perspective and judge them at the end of the season and also at the end of next season.
Just finally then, the contract...
Was that more than one sentence?
A lot longer than one sentence. You've got a very angry producer, so quickly, why is the contract as long as 2032?
Because it's got break clauses in it. It's not a case of if Liam Rosenior is sacked after 6 months, they would have to pay up the whole of the 6 years of the contract. And also, by giving him a 6-year contract, it gives stability to Chelsea. And also, it means that the owners and the hierarchy are in a strong position. If he does a fantastic job and he wants a new contract, or other clubs come along who want to take him off Chelsea.
OK.
Indumentaria, la Kings Limited Gold Edition, solo hay 50 unidades de todos los equipos y también puede ser vuestra entrando en kingsleague.pro, así que es los datos a tener en cuenta en cuanto a indumentarias. Gran partido, Gonzalo, Gerard, el que tenemos por delante.
Ojo, ojo, estilo La Bombonera, estadio...
Hostia,
de River.
Hostia, más minutos de retraso en el inicio, ¿eh? Ya tenemos lío.
Lo llamó Edo, dibujando la parábola sobre la banda derecha, donde en el vértice del área aparece Nadir. ¡Nadir para adentro! ¡Gol! De Nadir Lua, que tiene una facilidad pasmosa. Encuentra a Pablo, que balón para Nadir para el segundo. Se tafa de Cócera, es un golazo. ¡Es un golazo! Señoras, señores, bienvenidos al show de Nadir Lua. Pibe.
El mejor.
Vamos
haciendo espionaje, ¿eh?
Vaya mierda ha dado, pibe. Va, ya te puedes ir a la cúpula a comer, va.
Tiene que salir Cócera para entregar hacia el centro. Se la regala Coy, le puede pegar Coy para adentro.
Vaya chicha, nano.
¡Gol! De Porcino Solskjaer Coy. Ah, pues sí.
Tony, tienes brazalete volante.
Pero es que, señores,
Que no te lo dije, Rob.
Tenemos, comodín, ¿cómo lo usamos? Penalti.
penalti.
Venga, será penalti.
Vamos, Cuni.
Puede meter en el partido a Cuni. Jordi para adentro, qué golazo.
¡Guau!
¡Dios! ¡Gol!
Eso, dale.
Vamos con Nadir Lua y con Laura Vizcaíno.
Pues sí, Nadir, 2 goles, victoria y a cuartos, enhorabuena.
Sí, sabíamos que el partido iba a ser muy importante porque veníamos de una muy mala dinámica. El equipo ha estado bien, sufríamos defensivamente y creo que hemos estado muy juntitos. Y nada, primer objetivo cumplido.
Os espera Science, rival complicado, imagino.
Sí, empatamos contra ellos y en shootout
Así
perdimos. Ha quedado segundo por algo. Nada, concentración, confianza con los dos mismos y intentar ganar para el sábado estar en el Wizzing.
Os lo veremos mañana, mucha suerte.